Trading on the higher time frame is the first thing you want to do if you want to analyze the chart. This is because the higher time frame controls all that you see on lower time frame. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to analyze on the higher time frame, and most importantly, I'm going to show you how to execute on lower time frame using live trade. But before going into that, if you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Divine, and what I basically do on this channel is document how I trade, and as well show you the mindset behind my strategy. If you're not something like this, I want you to like, subscribe, and as well drop a comment. I'll be right back. Let's for instance say we want to analyze GBPUSD. Remember, the first thing you want to always do is to simply understand what price is doing on the high time frame. Is price bullish? That means is price buying. Is price bearish? That means is price selling. You want to simply understand what price is doing on the high time frame and understand direction of the market, and most importantly, the key levels. Now, the key levels are simply points where price tells you it's going to buy from, or points where it tells you it's going to sell from. You need to be able to understand what direction is, and most importantly, where the key levels are. I'm going to be showing you how to do that when we go to the daily time frame. Now, here on daily time frame, for us to identify where price is going to, we simply need to understand how to use our support and resistance. That means we simply want to use the trend line to identify where the support is and where the resistance is. In this case scenario, we want to simply zoom in properly so you'll be able to see what the price is showing us on the bigger picture. Now, having zoomed in properly, I want to use my trend line to identify where the support is and where the resistance is. At this point, I can clearly see that there's a support here. This is the first support here. Remember, for every support, there's always a resistance. Now, for me to identify the resistance, I can clearly see that this point is the point of resistance. Now, having identified support and resistance, what I want to do now is to understand or interpret what price is doing on this support and resistance level. How is price moving on this support and resistance level? Now, if you study very well, when price was at this resistance level, there was enough volume to push this price to the downside. And when price goes to the support key level, there was also an equal amount of volume to push it to the upside. Now, when price got to this point second time, there was little volume, but the volume was not as big as the previous one, so there was a little push to the downside. When price got to this support key level, there was also a massive volume to push it to the upside to this point here. What this is telling me is simply that there's enough volume of buyers in the market compared to the sellers in the market, which means price is going to the upside, which means price is bullish, and which means I'll be looking for buy opportunities in the market. Now, having understood that, I want to understand at what point am I going to buy from, and at what point should I be looking out to buy from, because the market is very bullish. For us to understand that, we simply want to identify the key levels. Where are the key levels in the market? Where is our support key level? And where is our resistance key level? I'm going to be identifying that right now. Now, for us to identify the key levels, we want to simply identify the last point where price made a reaction from when price was on the trend. That means when price was on support trend, where the price reacts from, and when price was on the resistance trend, where the price reacts from. Now, when price was at the resistance trend, this is the point where price reacted from. So this point is basically our resistance key level, and here is simply our support key level. So the point here is this: I want to understand what price has done from this support key level up to this resistance key level, and how price is moving from this resistance key level down to the support key level. That's what I want to understand next, and I want to do this on the 4 hours time frame. On the 4 hours time frame, I'm looking for supply and demand, and I'm looking for market structure. Remember, on daily time frame, we're looking for what? Direction and key level. So I'm going to go to the 4 hours time frame and be able to identify my supply and demand as much as my market structure. The point where I'm looking for my supply and demand is simply from these key levels. That means my interest now is simply from this key level to identify my supply and my demand, right? Now, for us to do that, we simply want to, let me zoom this out a bit. Very well. Good. Yeah. For us to do that, we want to simply study what price is doing from this point to this point, and how price is moving from this point to this point. And if I have to do that, you can simply say that this point is our first demand zone. There's a drop, there's a base, and there's a rally. This point is our first point of demand.
Why? Because there was a drop here, there was also a base, and there was a rally. And when this happened, there was also a rally, there was a base, and there was also another rally. So this point is another point of demand. Remember, we are trying to mark out supply and demand zones on this 4 hours time frame, and this is our demand zone. Now, when the price of this rally, base, rally, price also give us another rally, base, and rally. So this point is also another point of demand, right? We have identified the demand zone. That when price was at this point here, price was giving us series of demand zone, right? Now, we want to understand how price moved from this resistance key level down to this point here. How did price move? Now, when price was moving, price was simply moving in swing higher and higher lows. High, low, high, low, high, low, high. So price was simply giving us swing high and swing low. And also, price was giving us series of supply zones. First is here, drop, base, drop. Price respect the supply zone and drop again. Base, drop. So price was simply respecting this whole zone as supply zone. But our interest now is simply to identify the supply zone at this point here. Remember, we have identified this point here as our first demand zone. And what we want to do now is to refine these zones to become point of interest. But before we do that, let's also identify the supply zones in this area here. Now, this whole place is very choppy, and what I'm seeing here is clearly build up of liquidity. That means at this point here is equal highs, liquidity is here. This point also liquidity. All these points are simply liquidity. And the last point where I can identify a supply zone is simply at this point here. At this point here, supply zone, and all of these points are simply liquidity, drop base, full of liquidity. But our interest now is simply how price behaved at this point on the 1 hour time frame, and possibly how price behaved at this point here, because this is the point that became bullish. We want to simply go to the 1 hour time frame and refine these zones that we saw on the 4 hours time frame. We want to simply refine this point here where price became this point where price failed the first demand zone. Now, when price failed this first demand zone here, we simply refine it to this point here. And refining this point simply means that this point has become a flip zone for this supply zone here, for this sell, because price failed this demand zone here and it became a flip zone. So our interest now is simply for price to get to this point here, and then we look for a possible sell from this point here. What I want to do now is to understand how price behaved after price failed this demand zone and it became a flip zone, right? I want to understand how price was moving. Remember, this is 1 hour time frame. What I want to basically do is to refine the supply and demand zone, and most importantly, identify where the liquidity is. Now, the first thing after refining this demand zone that failed to become a supply zone is to understand that price kept on building up liquidity at this point here. This is the first point of liquidity, equal highs here. There's also another one at this point here. There's liquidity resting above all this area here. So what price did at this point is simply induce liquidity, which means for price to have generated this supply zone here and induce this liquidity at this point here, it simply means that price is going to react off from this supply zone that price created at this point here. Now that leads us to the next point here where we're going to refine this one here as well too. Now, refining this point here, we simply see that we're expecting sales to continue when price goes to this point. But I can clearly see when price goes to this point, it failed and became a flip zone, right? It failed and became a flip zone. So our interest now is to simply understand that this point now is no longer a supply zone, but instead a demand zone that price is likely going to react out from. And if I'm to refine it, this point is basically our point of demand, right? This point is the point of demand. Now, what I want to basically do is this: I want to see price come back to this point, and then I'll know what I'm going to do next, right? I want to see what price is going to do. If price come back to this point, then I will know what to do, because price has already induced liquidity at this point that I feel like price is likely going to use to trigger this supply zone at this point here. Now, the whole point is this: we have identified the supply zone and we have identified the demand zone. What I want to basically see on this pair right now is this: I want price to simply buy up to this point here, then give me a change of character, then I'll be expecting price to come back to this demand zone here. That's my analysis on GBPUSD. I want to basically see price buy up to this. If price opens tomorrow being Monday, I want to basically see price buy up to this point here and give me a change of character. Then I'll be looking for sales to this point here. And let me bring out it long. Sorry, so I want to simply see price from this point here. Give me a short-term sell to this point here. If price open tomorrow be Monday, then after this short-term sell, then I'll be looking for a long-term buy because the buy is the high time frame is also saying buy. So basically, my entry on GBPUSD is to simply wait for price to open tomorrow be Monday. If price are going to the upside, then I'll be looking for sell opportunities. That means if price open tomorrow be Monday and start going to the upside, I'm expecting price to fill this order here and give us a short-term sell. And when price give us this short-term sell, then I'll be looking for buys to the upside. And my first entry or my first exit point is going to likely be at this point here. That means if price open tomorrow and start going to the upside, I'm going to be looking for short to this point here as my TP1, here. And depending on how price behave, here is likely going to be my full TP before I look for buy opportunities. Because this impulsive move has to create a retracement before price continues to the upside. So my analysis on GBPUSD is simply wait for price to open and give me a particular reaction, then I'll follow what price is going to do next. But if price fails to respect this supply zone here and possibly break above the supply zone, then I'm going to look for buys to the upside. So two things are involved. If price opens tomorrow and buy to this point and give me a change of character, then I'm looking for sells to the downside. But if price fails to give me a change of character, then I'm looking for buys from this level here. I think that will be all for this video. You're going to see me on the next one. Peace.